You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
No, with the show, like even the type of guest and like dropping into different things, which I'm sure that you see, trying to have it to be a space that, like, I found out over time, like conversations and like talking to folks and like organizing, connecting around arts. And it's like there's so much like huge potential, like, for people to feel connected in this type of way, like, well, you're the fucking queen. This is your third episode, so
Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it because I love talking about like the subjects that you have in, and I guess press really isn't like a thing. I shouldn't say that. Recently, we're focused on press.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Recently, we've been focused on press in other ways. And I mean, I think that the best way to grow authentically is just connecting with other people in your community and lifting each other's creative bases, whatever it may be, So thank you.
Yeah, I dig that. Hey, everybody, we're talking with Jules, but in going back a little bit, with Jules Baptiste, episode 57, Jules, was when you were on with the Dirty Princess. Episode 57. Yeah. So the show's at 209 episodes. You were also snuck in a special in-person recording in Portland, episode 143, as Miss PCP 3K, talking early on about some of the components of fantasy in terms of liberation film project, and reaching you now over there in Portland, and we're chatting with this being a reality, this showing up on the big screen. I got a couple tickets to the showing later in this month, but we're closer to this now. We talked with you a little while back already, back on that episode, but talk about the film, talk about what's going on right now and where folks see it, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that you said it's really fun to see all the iterations. I'm happy that they're on your show, to see Dirty Princess and then see the liminal space PCP 3K, and now I am PCP no 3K. It gets shorter and shorter. It's kind of like soon I'll just be called P. Yeah.
Hey, I work with artists. I talk with artists, moving around in names. Like when I first started the show, I'd be like, "Oh, what's going on there?" Now you have to point it out to me for me to notice. But yes, very important though. PCP reaching you with it. Yeah, so it's interesting, the development. So here we are talking now. So yeah, lead us into the film.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about the film. So fantasy in terms of liberation is basically was my way of going through tests to get an outcome of something. Basically, I was in a transitional period. I was faced with so much that made me have to change. And it was insane. Like, basically, this piece is a fantastical way to represent personal integration and change. So people want me to dive deep into the film, but it is really just up for interpretation for wherever you are in your life is how you are going to take it in. I left it pretty vague, and each act 1 is honor the head, act 2 is honor the spine, knotted and woven between hearts and minds, and Act 3 is resistance is my inspiration. So I put clues in there, but I really want it to be interpreted by the person who's viewing it. Like I said, it's all narrated by sound. There is a small portion that is a little bit of narration. But yeah, it really is just an interpretive piece. And it's less about the storyline and more about how you are affected within it. The live show is something that we're doing that's going to really immerse you into the state of mind. I really enjoyed in Dirty Princess, putting little scents around, trying to immerse. This was like when all these ideas were circulating, but I had limited knowledge and awareness in order to keep them to grow these ideas. And now that I'm working on fantasy in terms of liberation, I can really go as far as I want in this space with the information that I was given in this vessel piece. Because basically, I was just following dreams, prayer, meditation when making this film. So I didn't even know what it was about yet until probably around January, February. So there was a storyline and it would go part by part, but I realized that I had to go through each iteration of evolving in order to really tell the story. So that's also why it took so long, because I had to go through a lot of deep meditation, a lot of self-integration. It was basically about, for lack of a better word, enlightenment. I hate using that word because I feel like it's not fine. It's not final.
Yeah.
And you're not like, but enlightened for this cycle of my life.
Yeah.
Basically, it's clarity. If you are clouded by trauma, bad experience, self-doubt, etc., you're not able to create in your full capacity because you don't have full clarity. So basically, that's what it was. And it's funny because I listened back to the old interview that we did.
Yeah.
And it is in my peak of like insanity for process.
Thinking about each component of it. Yeah. There's something that you mentioned that I actually thought a lot, like right when you mention it, as my mind goes on its path and listening to you, but it had to do with enlightenment, and this is a nuanced way of understanding it, because I understand, like, at first you want to say, like, maybe nowadays 2023 America enlightenment, right? Like, there's a lot of it, right? And there's a lot
right,
maybe tied, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of just like, that's why I don't like to use the word enlightenment, because it has been like bashed into this new age of what I like to say is like knowing more, like being more aware or something, but it's really not that. It's like you end up knowing less, and you actually just kind of trust the process. I remember having a meditation and inviting, before I go into like a music session or whatever, I'll just say I invite God into the room, and that means like I invite whatever wants to lead me.
Coltrane did that too. Invited God into the room.
Huh.
John Coltrane. So you invite that in. That's what you're trying to move towards, right?
Right. I mean, it's not, and it's funny because okay, so let me just scope out just from my experiences here for a second. I believe that the earth and the world and society around us is going through a huge change.
Yep.
And that's why I was excited for us to also touch on punk rock.
Yeah.
Is punk rock is not the same either. And the way it is represented is going to change as well. So I basically just wanted to be a mirror of what I thought was happening in the world. And that's what fantasy in terms of liberation is. It's a mirror of what I feel like the process is a lot of people are going to go through. And I feel like right now that's starting to be more of a conversation. And I'm excited to see how people will take this in. Yeah, I just feel like, punk rock, all that stuff, it's not, it doesn't, if we're talking about the literal like punk rock, studded shirts and whatever, I feel like that is now a conformity. And it doesn't say anything. Right now, I think like hip hop, rap, Black culture is punk rock. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think I'm going to really touch a lot on spirit in the next project. It's mostly going to be about community. But yeah, I'm just going with the flow. And whatever.
The thing is, Jules, one of the things that I think just too on Enlightenment, I think it's all recoverable. I mean, I have a strong perspective steeped in kind of a Mahayana Buddhist background and study. And the idea with Enlightenment is, and also with like kind of Buddha, looking in like mindfulness meditation in that term, is like, it makes sense a lot of what you're talking about, because the whole problem with or was thought to be the problem within Buddhism prior to Mahayana was that like the Buddha become like godlike. The Buddha becomes some sort of super like human symbol of enlightenment. And then in the history of Buddhism, that shit's just broken to like absolutely nothing, just broken apart. It's like, look, there are cycles towards enlightenment, right? You can be an enlightened being, and it's not like you won the jackpot. Then there is no jackpot, there's no universal jackpot. And it's like, and if you think about, obviously it's a complicated theology of reincarnation and such, but there's the idea that yes, enlightenment, being beyond suffering or moving beyond unnecessary suffering, because we all suffer,
right?
And so like that you don't win. Nobody wins over death. Nobody wins. And there's a blunt reality to it. So it makes a lot for me, what you were saying about the enlightenment bit, trying to avoid that. It makes sense in the terms of evolution that you're talking about, because that's what it's geared towards. It's another cycle. It's another shedding, I think maybe a little bit of loss in gain, I heard that in what you were saying, as far as like there's losing of things, unlearning,
definitely. And also, when I was younger, I was focused on like really superficiality of I guess rising, like being, like a star or whatever, and I guess in a lot of different meditation, it was like, how will you take on, let's say, notoriety or fame if you're unhappy?
and it comes, and you can't control, and you can't control that whatever comes in, you can't control, that either for yourself, like as it comes in with whether it's notoriety or otherwise. Can you handle it, right?
Absolutely. It was basically like, can you even handle that? Like, you are And also, like, that's not the route. Like, that's not going to bring you happiness. I think I might have said this in the other podcast that we did. It was like, go deep, not wide. Like, don't spread your name like all over the world. Like, you don't need to do that. You need to really just bring something. You need to travel in, and that's what I did. And yeah, I don't want to push that idea on anybody. Like, I feel like it was just made for me. And the reason why I know that I was supposed to go this route is because everything in my life got easier.
Haha.
Everything got easier. Like, who supported me, people believing in me. Basically, I just needed to go on a journey that allows you to believe in yourself. And also, like, small things. I wanted to let people know that it's okay to, like, retreat. It's okay to start over. It's okay to choose whatever you want. Basically, do what you want to do. And don't ever stop.
Yeah.
It's and go through things, you know. And I wanted to make basically my process of killing my own self and bringing myself to life. But also, yeah, like, I love literature. I had a lot of inspiration from the Bible, you know. One of the quotes I used, so yeah, like, I'm a vessel, and one of the poems from part 2, Honor the Spine, it was vigilance and militancy, powerless under thunder and lightning strike. So this film is also just about understanding the power of nature, God, whoever you want to associate our planet with. So basically they were saying, like, you know, us as a species is powerless under thunder and lightning strike, you know. So whatever you try to do, basically COVID was one of the signs that Mother Nature has the upper hand, you know?
Yeah.
And basically that fantasy in terms of liberation is about understanding that nature has the upper hand, and we are just its children. And understanding that we are also nature, so that we can ride the wave of power that it bestows upon us.
Hey, I'm for that. We've reached PCP over here in Portland, and there's a little bit of wonderful ghostly noise here or there in the background, almost choreographed at particular moments from the music that's next door. So we have the kind of live podcast element is super to reach it. We're talking here, actually recording everybody on the 4th of July, the complicated holiday of freedom in the United States of America. If you know the so-called United States of America, we have to take. So I wanted to mention something. I wanted the opportunity just to mention something to you, because a lot of times when I'm listening to art or podcasts or viewing art, you think of other artists. And one of the things I had mentioned to you, Jules, maybe an opportunity to tell listeners about this is the podcast that did happen here, which I was just telling Jules a little bit of the background about it. But the reason why I was thinking of Jules is that it's this really important study is done by Aaron Yankee and Mike Crenshaw, activists in the Portland area, about the killing death of Mulugata Sarah in the late 80s, and the environment in Portland where punk music, that scene, what it became was reflective at that time of a massive, deep racial tension in, super white late 80s Portland within the scene. And it comported with me experiences of talking to a good friend of mine, Sean Brown, of the band Swizz and Dag Nasty, talking about the 90s in the DC punk underground, and how these places, music, things that we think about, punk music, and resistance, like the battle was fought by people in the community, like community organizing, resistance, fights for territory to keep punk safe. With the idea that punk was about difference as well. And it was a deeply fascinating podcast. And I know a couple times we've chatted and just thinking about Dirty Princess, and there's something about punk and the energy and the way you would front a band, Jules, like the way that you would front a band and in your face, that it's just seems so much more important to me listening to that show and having some of the personal experiences of friends close to me,
right,
both white and African American within that, and just really seeing the connection of punk in creating safety or not, because if you lose that, then it's not there. You mentioned a little bit. We were just going to say, talk about punk. Is that happening to punk right now? What?
I think punk takes on a different meaning now. I think, especially since we're coming into a very controlled age. I feel like we like to think that we're not being controlled. But our society now is very much controlled. If we want to look at social media, like it's really interesting to me because now we have a certain flow that we have to attach to when producing something. So, I feel like people change like their whole chemistry of their brain to fit into the box of like, and I know this sounds minute or small, but it's actually part of a grander scale. Like, to be an artist, you have to post 8 times a week and, do this or do that. And it's like, that's control. It's changing, and like now we have all these different genres and ideas, and right now I feel like the most punk rock thing to do is to understand yourself and stand fully on your beliefs so that you are not swayed by control. So the most punk rock thing I thought at the time when I was going through this thing was getting in touch with me and my softness and getting in touch with my happiness. Because in a world that's so controlled by expectation, I think it's the most punk rock to find happiness. And you understand what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
Happiness is based off of, numbers now, and happiness is based off of, who you're next to or how much, but we're understanding that is not the case. So for me, I was like, the most punk rock thing I could do is be happy in any situation. I mean, it's not like toxic positivity. I'm talking about joy, authentic joy,
expression and joy.
And I just feel like the world is more controlled than ever. So to step away from all that is actually, the punk rock movement. And with a lot of, I don't know if it was just the area I'm in, but a lot of people who are in the punk rock scene, hardcore scene, whatever, hardcore is a little different, but like, I felt so disconnected from that. And I felt like you weren't able to express freely in that environment. It was just like, if you don't have the studded jacket, and like, it was all about superficial stuff and like overindulgence, drinking, waking up half naked. Like I said, I could have been in the wrong scene.
but I mean, it's part of like, there's always that debate inside. What are your resistance? Is it engaging in self-harm or harming the system, creating disruption, and how are you disrupting yourself?
Right. So I think, yes, but resistance, it wasn't so much about the movement. It was more about like, what I am afraid to take on is what I need to take on. So whatever I'm resisting as a human being, that keeps tugging on my tail is what is like inspires me. Why can't I, in the beginning it was like, you can't make a film, you're not going to finish it, da 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 da. Everything on the list, and that's my inspiration. Whenever people tell me like, you won't.
Yeah, you gotta have that. Yeah, you gotta have that. Yeah. You gotta push through that. Yeah.
Yeah. So fortunately, I don't have to like think about being punk rock. It's like, I'm gonna just do what the fuck I want, and I think that's punk rock enough. I guess I was just really uninspired with the punk rock scene that was happening in Portland. I felt like, especially during 2020, when I wanted to march and I wanted to be involved with educating myself further in what was going on, and I went to my punk rock community and spoke out, and people were too clouded and uneducated enough, no drive to actually get involved. I just noticed there was a lot of people who put on a big thing, but actually didn't show up, you know?
Yeah. And that was the complicated. I mean, I think it's always like the complicated times, because I think a lot of people like kind of, I know I can react against the, I don't know, maybe like the lack of depth in it, but there's also like that counterpoint. I always see that like, even if you get annoyed by the presence or how authentic it is, there's also a part of me that feels like the display of it is always useful. It's like the, it's like the idea, like I think around pride, where, at certain times there can be a reaction from humans being like, oh, this corporation put this in pride, but now seeing that actively, like corporations are like being attacked by whether it's inclusionary marketing, and I'm like, yo, they should at least be able to fucking do the inclusionary marketing and use these type of colors without, it's almost like I understand an authentic piece and like reacting against that, but it's always complicated inside of being like, even the symbols, even what you're putting out still is under attack.
Right. I mean, I guess for the whole LGBTQ thing, I understand why people are getting upset, but I do think that it's awesome that companies, even if it is just for marketing, are able to be like, it's okay to be gay. I don't know. it's silly, and there's a lot of different opinions on it. And I understand what you're saying. The display of standing out is important, but I don't think it's necessarily has to do with a music genre. Basically, was what I'm saying.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I really actually have been speaking a lot. Who I've been surrounding myself with lately is like not a lot of artists, not a lot of musicians. It's actually people in politics.
Oh yeah.
So there is this guy who wants to run for city council that really has been pushing me to speak out about a few things because he thinks I'm a good speaker. And actually, those are the people now who are beginning to inspire me because they're in it. You know, they are having the hard conversations.
Yeah.
They're in there in the fluorescent lighting trying to get something to happen. Like, it's not glamorous. And it's actually effective. And there's this really cool thing happening. The guy who's going to run for city council, who I've been speaking a lot with, is there is a huge flip that's happening in our government in Portland, where a bunch of people are about to get fired, and he has been planning Black creatives, politicians who are hosting meetings every week, and they're about to go into our government system in Portland and make a huge flip. So there's been a lot of chat about that, and it's been so liberating for me. So I guess to go further into that, I'm like, to really make a change is to get in there and actually be involved. And it's just cool to see people actually doing things. And I guess you can relate to that in the sense of like, you work for the union, you've got people together, you know, you're actually doing things. So I guess what I was disappointed with in my experience with the punk rock community is that no one was really brave. I'm like, well, let's go in there and let's like go. There was a policing event that happened in Portland.
Yeah.
To figure out how we could better police our citizens, and like, basically I want to be around people who are activated. Like, I definitely find myself, I know I'm an activist, and because with my artwork, with my being, I've activated people to change their minds, or inspire them. So I'm understanding that is my purpose, and however way I make that a reality is what I'm supposed to do here. So I guess that's my like bigger thing on the punk rock thing. I was like, well, it's good to shout and scream and have a good time, but how much is changing anything? I really want to be involved with change, not just shouting.
Well, that's where it moves towards. I mean, I just even think in terms of the show, or like my connection to the arts. Like, I got started like creating like most everybody accidentally. A good friend of mine who's passed away unfortunately, but she her name is Megan McGroarty, and she was working on a documentary about women running for office. We're in 2018. Okay, so midterm elections there. Women running for office. Kind of sea change statistically of people trying to get in there, right? And worked on this documentary, and I had different capacities where we worked on filming. I handled some stuff down in Richmond, California, working with her up in Oregon. She was doing stuff around the country, but my entry into like creating was all connected to that. And then I was like moved into like a podcast of creating. So like I always see it like politically connected in my head, because that's how I started. We were doing like a political documentary about women running for office.
Yeah.
And I had one guest on, I'm not sure if you know her name, Ana Del Rocio, she ran for county commissioner. She was in this film called Mother of Color.
I heard about Mother of Color. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. I really would like to, though.
It's a very wonderful film. And it's about the character, and it has just magical pieces about maybe like old wisdom, not trite or anything, but it's like political, running for office, dealing with microaggression, aggression within the workplace, childcare issues, young kids. How do I do this and that? She's fantastically talented, great story. And but just seeing a guest like that run for office, she didn't win on the county commissioner, kind of a tough race. But I think about it in terms like that, and I think it's really cool when we think about art and art in politics and doing and the change that's connected to it. I gotta ask you, just to make sure we get it in on here and chat, and Fantasy in Terms of Liberation, where are folks going to find that? How are they going to come in contact with it in general, both in Portland? Like I said, I get a couple tickets later in the month. What's the what's the one on Fantasy in Terms of Liberation?
Yeah, so July 29th, 2023 at Alberta Abbey, Fantasy in Terms of Liberation live. For like, it's a performance, it's immersive. I don't want to give too much away because I really just want to surprise
don't
people.
Don't give too much away.
I want to surprise people because it's going to be really amazing. But yeah, I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff on my account, which is PCP3K. On Instagram, and it's just gonna unfold, and I'm super excited. Tickets have been moving really quickly. Like, yay. I am excited. I think that it's gonna be an amazing show. We're gonna have an after party with one of my friends who's involved. He's focused on throwing events for pleasure activism. Awesome. And I think it's been really amazing to work more within my community, the Black community. I do think that I've noticed the way the Black community supports one another is far beyond anything I've ever experienced. It's like authentic, wanting to watch our fellow brother and sister rise. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. Yeah, in the punk community, it was majority white. And I felt a lot of microaggression, a lot of putting down. It was not the sort of environment that I wanted. But also, it's not anyone else's fault except for mine, because I allowed it. I was in it. I must have had some sort of common ground with the people I eventually didn't want to separate to.
Yeah. And the thing is too is like, we know is like all threads, all roots is it's Black music. I mean, it's rock and roll. What is rock and roll? Like there are all these, I don't know, it wasn't like connected like deliberately. There's this, it's a weird aside, but in the the group, the band with the Last Waltz, and they have this like discussion and talking about the music and where it comes from, and it's like there's this piece and there's this thread down here, straight down south, and it's Robert Johnson at the crossroads.
Right.
That's the fucking shit. It's right there, and that's punk, and then punk that comes out of rock and roll is punk, and jazz is, it's like so.
Right.
It must be. I mean, I don't know the experience, but for you, you'd be like, for me, like you're there, African American. Like, this is punk as fuck. This is like traditional. This is like traditional punk or something, or as punk as could be. But I don't know. It's also strange sometimes. It seems to me
it is, and everything is getting mixed and melted and built differently. Like I said, there's a huge shift happening in our country, in our world, in human consciousness. I feel like it's called like the silent revolution, where the underdog will rise. And it's really beautiful. And I just basically wanted to mirror that in fantasy in terms of liberation. It's a soft piece. This next piece that I'm working on it's funny because it definitely falls back into you basically come full circle. It basically falls right back into my punk rock political upbeat. Like I needed a bit of quiet, and that's what fantasy in terms of liberation is, the calming. It's guttural. You definitely feel what's going on, but this next project is a little more clear and a little more based in reality. But I had to go through all the flows, in order to get a message out. I had to get this message out, and the next message will be what it is. But yeah, Ken, thank you for always supporting me and giving me words of encouragement along the way. Like I know you would just send me certain things just to keep me going. And what people don't realize is, like, especially when you're in that vessel-like state where you're just allowing things to move through you and you're just putting out and you're not quite sure what it is yet, and then it becomes something and it all makes sense. Those little words of encouragements for your fellow artists it makes a huge difference. It's like, okay, I have people who are standing behind me, so I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for saying that too, because that's part of my energy and spirit and connecting to it. It's like, at a certain point, like if I get excited about something, I don't fucking hide it. It'd be like, I'm like super excited about this thing, and that's fun. No, it's so good to talk to you and connect with this. I want to say too, I know this. I don't know anything about the performance, but I know it'll probably be somewhat of a high wire act of you being out there, and just I know that some of the things artists do and that you do, there's some scary parts to move through, and so just I appreciate like your art and how you do it. And
thank you.
And when it comes to like just sending stuff to you, I got some New Zealand indigenous Maori hip hop for you to send along to. Yeah, I mean, I got some stuff to send along to you to keep you connected with all that.
Oh yeah, always down for that. I've been super into hip hop, super into rap lately. I just feel like they're gonna be the next. They are gods, but they are going to be the next people we looked up to. Like, I feel like there's a mass intelligence around wordsmithing and that creativeness, even if it's something so basic. The next thing that I do, there's like a lot of, there's some rap in it, and like, I'm just going with what's pulling me right now, and I just feel like that is punk rock is the movement that is happening right now within hip hop and rap. And yeah, huge fan of like the whole bimbo movement that's happening right now, with women being able to dress and say and be a dumb bitch in the sense of like a very blanketed idea. I love, basically they're talking about Marilyn Monroe, all these people that were women, especially beautiful women who weren't supposed to be in touch with who they were. And they actually very much were. So I'm fascinated by so many things now. And basically my message to anyone who is listening to this is, if you feel a huge pull to do something different, if you are an artist, do it. Do it. Quit everything. It doesn't matter. Do it. Now that I'm out on the other end of this, I'm like, I am so happy I made every hard decision that came up when I needed to change. I'm like, wow. It's coming out the other end.
It shows, Jules. It shows I'm talking to Jules on video. Listeners, you can see Jules is flush with good spirit and a great smile. You're looking great. Thank you for coming on to the show. There's like two or three other threads. Oh, two other things I want to mention before we leave. Maybe we could chat about the like the podcasts around or not being around with fantasy in terms of liberation, or like a component there, whether to connect creatively with the audience, or after, or part of a party or anything like that. If there's like even live, so that's just completely open. If there's a way to connect for the show to connect to the energy that's there, but best of luck with that. You're gonna knock it out, and everybody check out PCP on it's under PCP 3K on Instagram. And if you're in some of the folks who listen to the show are in Portland area, if you're in Oregon, or if you're traveling, everybody travel. It seems like everybody goes to Portland. Maybe if they have travel, they have the ability to travel, you can make it over there. But Jules, do the 4th the way that you wish to do it. I hope to see you. Hope to see you in person sometime soon. But thanks for being the queen. 3 episodes for you, Queen Jules.
Yes, thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate everything that you do.
All right, take care.
You too.
All right,
bye-bye.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.